Hello, a bit of an impromptu live because I had to find all the things to actually do the live. So I've brought everything except the brick. I've had to borrow a brick. So yeah, it's not the OG brick. But everything else is good, I think. I'm missing half the stuff, obviously, because I can't show you like every single variation. But what I'm going to show you for this one is exactly what you need for this stitch along. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that will be good, because then there won't be any like, you could use this or you could use that. I feel like this is what you need to use. That's it. Okay, let's go. So we're going to go through the materials that you're going to need, and then we're going to do some watercolor. And if I have to do another watercolor, I will, but if not, we'll leave it. So we'll just see what happens. Also, I'm in the big room, which means I'm on like the first floor or second floor if you're American, in like the loft area, but it kind of is just one big room. So if you can hear Rusty walking around or the kids screaming or whatever, apologies. But yeah, that's what we've got today. So let's get started. What you're going to need for this is an 8-inch hoop. I've decided to not do the doubled hoop because when you do the stitching on organza or tulle, what you need to do is make sure that none of your stitches travel, which means like if you've got a stitch over here and you want to go over there, you can't just go there. You've got to stop and then do a new one over here. And some of the stitches that we're going to learn, it's really difficult to not make them be exactly the same on the front as they are the back. So I've scrapped that idea, and instead we're going to do watercolor on this one, and then I'm going to make a new stitch along that uses the 2 hoops, because I can't get that idea out of my head, and I think it could be really, really cool. So, there you go. You're going to need an 8-inch hoop. I like the nice hardwood hoops like this. Betty says no sound. Can you let me know if anyone else can hear me or not? Because obviously it's a new place. I haven't done a live here before in this house with this internet and stuff. So if you can hear, let me know. If not, Betty might have to leave and then come back in, you know? So I like the hard hoops like this because they touch all the way around. And when you have hoops that both of these hoops here like this, whoop, oh my gosh, I can't take it apart. Don't touch. Okay, so you've got your inside hoop and your outside hoop. When they don't touch all the way around, that's where you're going to get gaps in your fabric. That's when your fabric's going to start like pulling down when you stitch, and you're not going to get a nice drum like sound on the top. It's going to end up being like wavy, and then your stitches can then pull together and manipulate the fabric, etc., etc. So we really don't want to have that. And the best way is to just look at your hoop like this and just see if you can see any light shining through all the way around, okay? And if you can, just choose a different hoop. Some of the bamboo hoops, they're okay, but a lot of them, the hoops, they don't line up all the way around, and then you end up having a lot of trouble. And then when you don't set yourself up right at the beginning and you start stitching and then you're struggling the whole time, you think, oh, maybe stitching isn't for me. But actually, it's just that unfortunately, you got a bad hoop to start with. So that's always like my number one tip. Okay. The next thing you're going to need is some scissors. So I've just grabbed these ones. These are the ones that my mom has. Like I said, all my stuff is everywhere, but you can get any kind of scissors. That's a pin. Good. That you want to. You can get embroidery scissors with the curved edge. They're expensive, but you don't have to have these, okay? But you can if you want to. You can even get just regular scissors, all right? You need scissors to cut your thread, and you also need scissors to cut your fabric. So I would always prefer to have 2 different pairs. So like one big one for fabric, and then your smaller ones for your thread, mostly because it's more convenient. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Natasha. Oh, I really missed you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit nervous to come on. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been on for ages. I really miss it. But yeah, so there's that. And then if you're traveling, I always like to do the fingernail clipper ones. So you can always just use your fingernail clippers to snip the thread, especially if you're like on an airplane or maybe a train or something. And you just don't want to bring scissors with you for whatever reason. So those are always super good to have. Right, the next thing is going to be an embroidery needle. We're going to use the regular size for 6 strands, and then if you want to have other ones, you can too. So if you can kind of see my 3 different sizes here, I've got the 6 one, then this one is kind of for 3 or 2 strands, and then this one's just for 1 strand, and you can totally see the difference in how thick like the shaft of the needle is here, whoopsies, but also how small or large the hole is that you're going to be putting your thread through. So if you're trying to shove 6 strands through this tiny little one, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to be really frustrated. So again, this is like setting yourself up for success, you know? In my shop, I sell these ones. Obviously, I can't get them to you before the stitch along starts, but this is like the standard needle that I normally use. It's the closest one I can find to the vintage one that I love the best. It's a little bit shorter, but other than that, it's like almost identical. We get these every year in the advent calendar, and I always think maybe I should put something else in, and everyone's like, no, we like the needles. So you can kind of see it's just a little bit shorter. But that comes in handy if you're going to do anything like any kind of wrapping, like a French knot or something like that, you know? So those are my favorite ones. I get them from John James Needles. You can get small packs, you can get up to the thousands, and I always get the thousands because obviously I sell them and I use them a lot. So yeah, you're going to need a needle. You don't have to have a bunch of needles. I really only have these 3 here, and then I've got a little blunt needle here on the side that I use for woven wagon wheel roses, but otherwise all the other ones are the same. They're just these ones that I found, so I stuck in here. So I tend to just use these ones here. You don't have to change needles if you don't want to. If you only have one, that's totally fine. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of new supplies for this stitch along. Whatever you've got, if you're happy with it, then just use it, okay? So the next bit is going to be transferring your pattern onto your fabric. Now, what you're going to do for this one is a little bit different than the other stitch-alongs, and that's why I'm kind of glad I don't have all of my supplies, because we really don't need to do a lot before the first day, okay? We're going to watercolor our fabric, and then after we watercolor, we're going to trace our pattern. But you don't need to have like a bunch of different methods, and we're not going to have like a tons of things to do. You know what I mean? So what you're going to do is print out your pattern like this so it fits into your 8-inch circle, your hoop. But we're not going to put it in the hoop yet. What you're going to do is we're going to take our fabric like this. I like to stitch on 2 pieces of fabric. We're going to take our fabric like this, okay? And we're just going to slide this underneath like that. See how you can see it through? This is like really wrinkly, but do you see how you can see it through? And what we're going to do is we're going to trace first just the lines that we're going to paint in the next step, okay? So not the starfish and these things and the ship, the whole thing. We're only going to trace just the lines that are going to be different colors. All right. So for example, we've got this right here is going to be blue in the background. I've got green. I think it's like one version had a brown and one version had a gray. So it's supposed to be a rock. You can make this rock any color you want. And then this is going to be a light brown. Okay. So these 2 are the same color, and these 2, this one and that one, are the same color. And then that one is a different color and that one's a different color. So all we're going to be doing is tracing these lines here first. Okay, like that, and then like that, like that. We're going to paint, okay? And then after we paint, we're going to put it in the hoop. All right, so I'm going to show you how to put the fabric in the hoop right now, but you're actually not going to put the fabric in the hoop until after you're done painting and it's dried. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So what we're going to do, like I said, I'm going to show you how to put the fabric in the hoop just because then you know how to do it. And then we're going to get started on the painting part. All right, so I like to cut my fabric so it's about 2 inches or 2.5 inches on all sides around in a circle. The sun is like, I'm in the back. I can't make it go any farther, but this is the back of my house. So the sun's coming like right through the window. It might be better if I like put the shades down. I feel like it's a bit dark. If I just pull it down like that. It's almost like too bright, do you know what I mean? If I put it like that, is that a bit better, or do you prefer it like in full sun? What do we think? Because I feel like you're not going to be able to see it very well, but also I can't really change it right now. Maybe I'll have to get a different setup or something. We'll try it like that. Okay, we'll try it like that. We'll just see, okay? Because I do have the light on, but it's behind me, so that's not helpful. All right, so what we're going to do is you're going to cut your fabric out in a circle like this. You're going to loosen the top here. Kind of feel like that's made it worse. And the reason the table is white is because I put a trash bag on top so that we can paint on top of it. And what I like to do is put it on my stomach, this is the hoop. You're going to tighten it a little bit like this. Okay, and then what you're going to do is go around and you're going to pull the fabric just a little bit on all sides. If you see how there's wrinkles here, and as you pull it, it gets nice and tight. Now, if you have 2 pieces of fabric, you're going to do the exact same thing, except with 2 pieces of fabric. You're going to lay them right on top of each other. Now, you're going to tighten it at the top, and then pull around the bottom. These lines are so weird. You just like push them up and they like somehow stick. I have no idea how that works. Okay. I decided against it. I like it better with more light. Okay, and then, do you hear that? You want that nice drum sound. However, I still see some wrinkles in my fabric. So what I'm going to do is tighten it again. And then a lot of them have these little screwdriver lines right here. What you can do is put your screwdriver in there and do a couple more turns. And then you're going to pull your fabric all the way around again. Okay, now remember, you're not going to do this first, all right? You're going to do it after you paint and after your paint has dried. Yeah? You want it to be nice and tight all around, okay? Sometimes I just cheat and use this right here. I don't always have a screwdriver, and I didn't think that TSA would really let me into the country with a screwdriver in my bag. They'd be like, excuse me, ma'am. Okay, so after you have it all done, like this, it should be nice and tight all the way around. You shouldn't see any dips. It looks like there is a dip right there, actually. But there shouldn't be any dips all the way around. It should be nice and have that nice drum-like sound, okay? Whilst it's in there, though, it'll be a good time to trace my lines, actually. So I can do that. And what you're going to do is I use the Pilot heat erasable friction pens, okay? And you can use some tape or blue tack in the corners. I don't think I have any of either up here. I have staples, but that's not helpful. Not helpful at all. My mum is really, oh my gosh, this is the most hilarious thing. Look at this. This is my mom's tape dispenser. You've got to be kidding. But what you can do is just tape it on the bottom, and that just makes it so that it doesn't move around whilst you are tracing. Okay? I'm going to push it like that, and that just makes it so that it doesn't move. Okay? I like to put my fingers like this behind when I trace. Like, how hilarious is that? I've never seen one of those before. I mean, I've probably seen it like on her desk or something, but like that does... I can't believe that. Okay, so what you're going to do is just trace these lines like this. Okay? And if you want to, you can make a line through each of the things so that you know when to stop, you know? And we're going to just stitch right over this. So don't worry about going through stuff. It's really just so that you know the separation of the colors. Oh, someone's gone swimming. I can hear him. Okay. Let's do this side. I love this method, though, is that you hold it up in front of a window. I've already shown you that I've got a window there. And you can totally just see through the fabric so that you can trace it. Okay. There we go. So there are our sections. If you really want to, we're going to stitch these rocks here that are in front of the ship. But if you want to, you can trace them right now. And that way you know where you have to stop. Okay? So this right here is going to be the light brown color for mine. All right? It doesn't have to be for yours. It can be whatever color that you want. Okay, now remember, we're going to use this later, so don't get rid of it. Okay? So this is what we are left with. So now what I'm going to do is you take this and unscrew it and take it out. And then we're going to paint. Okay? So I've done 20 minutes of chat. It's only been about what you need for this stitch along so far. Okay? If you have any other questions, like maybe you don't have this material or that material and you think, what else could I use? Go to one of the other stitch along prep videos and you can explain all the different kinds of, like you can use a pencil if you want. You can use a water erasable pen, although when you watercolor, it's going to disappear. So probably wouldn't use that one. You can use a lot of different things. Okay. And the other thing I like to do is put a little circle around so I know that I need to paint until this edge. So when I do my painting, it doesn't stop like here, and then I put it in the hoop and I have some areas that are not the color that I want it to be. okay? So this is what we have so far, okay? As far as threads, these are the colors of threads that I've picked. I've literally gone through my mom's stash and just gone and picked every single one out, every color that I thought. Now, some of these are not DMC or Anchor threads. They look like those threads that you buy from Amazon that you can get like 500 threads in like one pack for like $10 or something, you know? They look like those. They feel like they're probably polyester, but they feel like soft. And then you can see kind of like the difference. This is an Anchor thread, and then these ones are the other ones. So they are similar, but just not the same, you know? Similar, but not the same. But for this one, I'm not too bothered. I'm going to just use what I've got. And I encourage you to do the same thing. So please do not go out and buy every single color that you see that I have here. It's not, you don't need them all, okay? I only just picked all the ones that I thought would be fun. Just nice, bright colors. Also, check in the PDF pattern, because in the PDF pattern, I've included a colored in version. So if you would like to do it the same colors that I have on the colored in version, it kind of shows you what colors to get. Now there's no color number chart or anything like that, because I don't want it to be one of those things where someone has to buy 45 colors for a stitch along. Like, that's silly. But if you've got like a green, if you've got like a dark brown or a black or a dark color for the ship, you know, if you've got a nice fun color for the starfish, it can be any color. That's the fun thing about the like under the sea type stitchalongs or like the jungle stitchalongs. They can be any color. It doesn't matter. So don't get caught up in like, I need to go out and buy the right color, or I need to stitch it exactly the same, or I need to make it be like a mirror image. Don't. Make it your own thing, okay? If you've got a different color you think will look good, great. If you don't want to do watercolors, that's totally fine. Do your own thing. You totally have permission to like be creative and kind of like do what you want with the stitch along. So if you have no experience, this is perfect for you because I'm going to show you everything. But if you do have experience, I think it's also perfect because you can do what you want with it. You can make it your own, you know? So before we get started, I'm going to show you a couple different watercolor techniques, and then I'm going to paint it. So I have a super basic, I think it's from Michael's, a watercolor. It's a children's watercolor set. I think it was like $5.99 or $6.99. I didn't buy it this year. I bought it a long time ago for when I used to be a nanny here. And then we did some rock painting yesterday with the iridescent thread, paint. And so I thought it might be fun to use some of those in the stitch along as well. So let's see what it's like. With watercolor, what you're going to do, I've got some scraps here. Okay. With watercolor, what you're going to do is, here's the basics of watercolor. Watercolor for basics. Okay. All you need to do is you're going to wet your brush with a little bit of water. Yeah. And you're going to rub your watercolor like this. If you rub it a lot, you're going to get a dark color. If you rub it a little bit, you're going to get a lighter color. Okay? So for example, that is, I rubbed it a little bit, but I mean, this is a dark color. So think about it like that. Rub, 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 rub. Do you see how it's not as watery? Let's go a little bit closer and I'm going to zoom in. Do you see how it's not as watery as that one? Okay. Do a light blue. So if we just do a little bit like that. Yeah. But if we like rub it, rub it, rub it, rub it. You're going to get a more saturated color. So when I say darker, it's the same color. It's still going to be this color blue. It's just going to be a little bit lighter or a little bit more saturated or a little bit more, you can see through it or you can't see through it. Does that make more sense? I really wish the lighting was a little bit different because I feel like it's like blowing out the picture. You can't see it. Okay, so there's a couple different techniques that we could use. So the first one is wet on dry. So we've got wet paint on dry fabric. Okay, so this is really good if you want a nice crisp line. So for example, if you want to separate the sand and the water, okay, you can go along like this. Yeah. And then you can even add water just to the edge of this, like this. Now it is fabric, so it's going to travel. You don't want to get it too wet to the edge. But you can pull that paint up. So you still have a nice crisp edge. But you're pulling it up. You want to be quick or you're going to get that line like that. No, someone's crying. Probably Ellis. Okay. So we've got a nice edge just like that. I need my light. I wonder if my mom has a light. Okay, so the next part is when you add two colors next to each other. So for example, we've got the sand or the greenery and the water, yeah? If you put the wet paint next to the wet water, yeah? That doesn't make sense, but it will. So say that you've got one like this. Okay. It's like a crash course. If you've got questions, then just ask, all right? I'm trying to show some examples of like real life things that you might encounter. And we've got your sand color here, say. Yeah. And you're going so careful along this edge. But if you touch it, do you see what happens? Do you see how it starts to travel? Because when the wet touches the wet, then it all becomes wet and all of the colors are going to bleed and mix together. Okay? So what we want to do is if you want a nice crisp edge like that, you want to let it dry for a bit. So I always recommend doing a section, and then if you've got a section right below it, wait for that top section to dry a bit and then do the bottom section. So you might have to skip around and do little bits by little bits depending on kind of, you know, what you see and what you like. And this is the metallic color. Ooh. It's iridescent. I don't know if you can actually see that on the camera or not, but it's supposed to be the iridescent paint. So again, this is just from Michael's. I got it again a really long time ago when I used to be a nanny, when I was actually in college. So you can just see how long ago that was. You can see it though, so that is like totally, it is like shimmery and stuff. So this would be cool, like in the bottom part, like this part, where it's like supposed to be like darker, you know, like the deep sea, and then maybe at the top do like the lighter color one. Let me see if there's a sticker. There's no sticker. It's literally just like the shimmer palette from Michael's. So let's see if we can find a light blue that's like that. Here's a light blue, but I don't really know if it's what it's like. Now the shimmer palette ones, you really do have to rub it to like get it wet. Put some water on there, and I know you can't see it because it's out of the frame of the camera. Let's see here. Let's put it at the top like this. Oh, that'll be good. And then what you can even do is get that little edge wet and see if we can mix the two together a little bit. something like that. To get a nice little gradient. And then, like I said at the beginning, the more water that you put in there and the less that you rub, that's going to be like the lighter the color. So you could even make it super, super light at the top. Okay? Okay, so let's paint our fabric. Now, before you start painting, make sure that you put something down on your surface. So if you've got, so I've just got like a trash bag. I've just got a regular trash bag. Nothing special, just a regular trash bag. And then make sure that there's no wet, anything like that. We want to have like a nice dry surface to start with. So let's start on this part right here. Again, it's been 30 minutes. Oh, I need to get a drink. It is boiling up here. It's not as hot as the loft in my house back in England, but it's warm up here. Probably should not be drinking a sparkling water because it's just going to make me have to burp, isn't it? Okay, so let's do this section here and see if we can get that same nice effect that I just did. So I'm going to start with the lighter color at the top. I hope this is not too boring. I hope that I'm explaining it nicely and not like, remember I'm using the water to just spread it around a bit because this is going to be like my lightest area at the top. And then as I go down, I'm going to be wanting to put more and more paint in. That means rubbing the paint a bit more to make sure. Can you see the whole thing? Yeah, okay. And if they bleed together, it's not the end of the world, guys, okay? So please don't be like, oh, it bled. You know? Watercolor is really forgiving. If you've got a nice, like a harsh edge, you can often fix it. I don't know if you can hear that, but someone on our lake caught a really big fish, like 40 inches long. Like ginormous. And some of the ducks have been going missing, and we think it's probably that. Okay, so now I've got my blue in. Hi, Connie. All right, remember, I said I wanted to put the dark blue at the bottom. Yeah? So let's get the dark blue. I'm rubbing it quite a bit. Let me see if I can put it like over here so you can see. I'm going to go over this area with the dark color. Okay, I don't want it to be too wet because I don't want it to run down. The other thing that you need to know about watercolor is that because it's fabric, it will travel. So if you hold up your fabric like this way, all the colors are going to run down. They're going to bleed all down your fabric. So make sure you keep it flat all the way until it's dry. I always wonder if it's like really boring or Connie said it's so fun to watch, and I always feel like I need to do it faster because I'm like being really boring. Like people are going to be like, okay, we get it. Like just tell us what we need now. Okay, and then you just need to soften those edges, okay? So just put a little bit of water. You can blend them all together. Again, not a lot because we don't want it to like go everywhere, you know? And you can see it traveling up as I'm going up. What do we think? Right, I always find these prep videos really soothing. Oh, good. Right, I'm going to take this off. So if you get seasick or something like that, I'm going to try and move really slowly. But this is what we've got so far. What do we think? Now remember, I'm going over the edge. So this is kind of like the outside edge of my hoop, and I made my circle bigger just to be sure that I'm covering it the whole way, because there's nothing worse than getting to the very edge of your stitching and there being like a little bit where you forgot to paint. I don't know if you can see like the iridescent part in it very well, but I feel like that's good. And that will be like nice and bright. It'll look like the sun is like shining down in that bit. Okay, so let's go back and let's get some greens. I haven't tried any of the green paint, so I don't know what colors those are going to be. So let's just try. Maybe just like flat paint for the green. I don't have a lot to choose from on this one because, like I said, this is just like a children's watercolor palette. This isn't like a pro. So like that is really bright, isn't it? Now the other thing you can do with these is that, because I don't like to spend a lot of money on the things that I probably am not going to use very often, what you can do is you can mix different colors to get new colors, okay? So you can, you can take some green up here and scrape it off your brush like this. Okay, and then you can take some red. Do you see where this is going? And you can make different colors. So obviously this one's going to be like a brownish, like a dark brown. Obviously I don't have brown, okay? So it's good to get some new colors. So I want like a darker kind of green, not brown. I just want like a darker green. Now you could add white as well if you wanted a lighter color, but I just like to add less paint. Okay, so let's see what this color is. If I made a darker green or different, did it work or what? So we've got, this is the color I've got now. So this was the original color, original green, and then we've made a darker green. So what I could do is put that darker green back here if I wanted, okay? Or I can mix these two together and cover the section, all right? Now remember what I said about waiting for things to dry? I'm gonna skip this section for now and go down to this section, all right? I'm gonna put the darker one in the background and put a lighter one in the front. So let's see about if I put a lot of water on here. And this is like the fun part that I find fun about watercolor too, is that you can just experiment. Like there's no right or wrong way of doing it, you know? So here I've just put a bit of white in it, and I've made a light brown, or no, green. Ugh. I keep thinking I need to make that brown again for the brown. So with these ones, you don't have to have the same color for the whole, oh no, I didn't wet my brush. For the whole thing, you can kind of mix it around if you want. So you can have areas that are lighter, areas that are darker, and that's okay. The other thing I want to say about watercolor is that if you start getting a water, as in your water pot, that is a dark color and you would like to use a light color, you need to change that water and get fresh water. Okay? And the reason is because the color of the water, if you're using a light color, is going to change the color of your paint. I'm just going like right up to the edge, and I'm going to use the same color but down here. Have to go, but see you all on Thursday. See you on Thursday. I cannot wait to see your guys' prep videos. Like, this is like my favorite part. Okay. Do we have any questions? Because I'm about to go too. But do we have any questions at all? Anything about setup? Anything about watercolor? Anything about painting? Can you still hear me? Because my alarm went off. I hope you can still hear it. Ooh, she's bright. I hope you can still hear me. But yeah, if you've got any questions at all, please, please, please let me know. I'm always happy to answer. Okay, good. What is your fabric? This is a cotton quilting fabric. You can find it, well, it used to be at Joann Fabrics, but I ended up having to go to Hobby Lobby and finding it because I don't know any other, where we live is like not close to a lot of things. But we ended up having to go to Adrian, and go to Hobby Lobby. And this is just a white quilting cotton. So you can see that the cotton is like this. You can get Country Classics quilting cotton. They often have that. And then they also have the Kona cotton. And the Kona cotton comes in lots of different colors. That's what I used to do the swan on. I'm pretty sure that Linda Hamill is on my lake, the same lake that I'm at. I never know if it's the same person or not, so I never want to say, but I'm pretty sure it is. But this is the Kona quilting cotton, and you can see that it's very similar, just a different color to this one. Yeah. Kona cotton is a bit more expensive. I think it was $9.99 for 1 yard. Got to change all my things because in England we use meters, so at the fabric store I have to be like 1 meter. That's what I want. But actually you can get as little or as much as you want. So I tend to do the size of the hoop plus 2 inches on each side as a minimum. So you could get 12 inches and you can just ask them for a 12-inch slice, and that will give you enough for one on the bottom and one on the top as well. So you could do 2 hoops with 2 pieces of fabric in each hoop, or you could do 4 hoops with 1 piece of fabric. That's like 8-inch hoops, it just depends. I don't think Hobby Lobby does 40% off weeks anymore, but if you only get 14 inches or 12 inches, that's still like less than half a yard, so you can still get, it's like cheap. There's also a different brand there, and I forget what the brand was called because I couldn't find it on the one that I picked, but it was $5.99 for a yard. So if you only got like a third of a yard or half a yard, then that's even cheaper, Do you use cotton for the backing fabric? I use cheaper poly cotton. You can use any kind that you would like to. I don't tend to do backing fabric. I tend to leave mine like this, unless you mean the second layer. But I use the white for both of mine. The white fabric that I get, I haven't found anything like it in the States here, but it's from the Super Buy section in, it used to be Barry's Fabrics, but it's closed now. And it's like $3.99 or $2.99 for a meter. And it's the super long one. So you get 60 inches instead of the 42 inches. But yeah, I tend to just use the same one because I get like 50 meters at a time and just buy a ton of it. But it's honestly my favorite fabric to use. Like, it's so good. It's the perfect weight where it's not too heavy, it's not too thin. But yeah, for the second layer, it doesn't have to be like premium cotton fabric, you know, for the second layer that goes behind. You can just use a poly cotton, or you can use anything that you've got. I've even used pillowcases. Okay? Pillowcases. I used those before. I've used flat sheets. So if you've got flat sheets, like for sale at Target or at Meijer or the Dollar General, anywhere that's 100% cotton, try it. Don't knock it till you try it, because honestly, they work so good. So there we go. That's pretty much it. I'm going to wait for these sections to dry, and then I'm going to do the darker ones here, and then a sandy color here, and then I think I'm going to do like a light, maybe a gray or a light brown there. Maybe I'll use this shimmery fabric. That might be sheeting fabric, extra wide. It just said special buys on it, and that's why it was so good, but that's why it's so difficult to find, because they just said it was white cotton, just 100% white cotton, and it was, yeah, super cheap. But honestly, it's the best for embroidery, like, so good. So, there we go. I'm going to let this dry, and I will take a picture of it when it dries. But let me know if you have any questions. Obviously, I'm going to chat about the WhatsApp group because it's so good. It's £3 a month. This is our second month that we're on right now. Admittedly, I haven't done the Zoom yet, for the first month, but we'll just do 2 this month. It's fine. Where we just like sit and chat and stitch together. The reason is because we've had company in town. So we had something like 18 people in the house in like a 4-bedroom house. So, that was fun. But, yeah, it's so good. And people, like, it's the most supportive group, I swear, that I've ever been in, because everyone's like showing their projects. If they need help, people are helping. Obviously, I'm there all the time too, so I'm also helping. I've traced patterns for people. It's just nice to chat, you know? It's nice to chat and like have someone there all the time that you can like ask a question to. So, and we've like chatted about the stitchalongs in there and like had their choice and talked about like what I wanted to do, and it's just been such a joy. Like, honestly, I was really nervous because I thought, oh, a squirrel. Because I thought, oh, what if no one joins? But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So if you're on the fence, do it. I promise you. It's so fun. It's so worth it. So I'll be showing some things in there too. And yeah, we start Thursday. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you've got any questions at all, just send me a DM or send me a little message or an email, whatever you are comfortable with. And I will see you guys on Thursday. All right. Bye.